Please tell me you can hear me. Otherwise, I will try again. Welcome to Blender today, live here. I just forgot to plug the microphone and I did a test and it worked. Please let me, is it okay? No sound, no sound, no sound, but now there should be sound. Otherwise, I will mimic like I'm talking. Anyway, Blender, okay. Give me the thumbs up if it, please. Okay, now it's fine. All right, cool. Jesus. How many, like we were doing like already 50, at least 30 live streams. I'm still failing at it. Sorry I was a bit late. I had a bit of a stomach ache and this is live, you know, you have to jump and do it. So let's get through it. There's so many things. I made videos last week regarding the changes in Blender 2.8 Alpha, but now it's, there are a few more changes, upgrades, and a bit of everything. And I have a little surprise that I wanted to share with you guys. So yes, this is live. It's 10, almost 10 minutes past 9. I'm live here from Amsterdam. Leave your questions if in the chat, and I'm gonna try to answer them towards the end of the show once I go through the things that are new in the Blender community right now. So you guys are all over the place. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for ensuring that this is going okay. So this is what I have here at the moment. So what can we? So good to have you guys here. All right. So let's see what changed in Blender today. Well, it's been a bunch of fixes here and there, making it more stable. There is OpenSAFdiv is coming. OpenSAFdiv is this thing that is going to replace SubSurf, like for good. So in Blender 2.79 there is OpenSAFdiv, but you have to enable it in the preferences. In the preferences you choose which kind, and in the modifier, in the SubSurf modifier, you can choose if you want to use OpenSAFdiv or not. But it was an older version and it wasn't the most it has some issues with the non-manifold meshes, couldn't do that. With UVs, with multiple materials, there were limitations. So OpenSAFdiv is finally coming very, very soon to Blender 2.8 Alpha. It's going to be during the alpha, so it should be pretty soon before the beta. And I was talking today with Sergey, the developer that is implementing it, and he's even fixing things in OpenSAFdiv itself and submitting patches to the library. And OpenSAFdiv is done by Pixar. So it seems like they're things that we use that Blender has specific that they don't have. And probably the other way around, they use certain things. So I think it was something to do with the CPU, because we use CPU for if you want to subdivide a mesh and you want to like tweak the mesh, you use CPU, but then if you want a previous, you see it with the GPU. There are a few things there connected. So anyway, it's a fun story. I should do a live stream with Sergey actually. He's actually not too far from here, so one of these days I could grab him and have a live stream with him, or we can do that from the Blender Studio. So let's go through what's new. It's a Monday, so you can always see what are the latest in the mailing lists. So this is a meeting from today. This is like every Monday at 10 a.m. or 6 p.m. depends. There is one week and 1 week. There is a meetings where people just get together on IRC and discuss what are going to work on during that week. We're very happy to see that all the Summit of Code the projects have a nice weekly report. There will be big weekly reports per developer also coming back now that the Code Quest is over. So there will be more of this new what each developer did during that week. Campbell is gone. Yes, Campbell is back in Australia, probably still traveling because it's like crazy long flights. So once he's back, he's going to continue working and wrapping up the open projects, the open issues in the Blender 2.8 projects, such as the tool system, for example. The tool system is this concept of having an active tool. So you set a tool and then you use it. well, this concept is a tool, but it still has a bit of some issues. For example, then some active tools don't have widgets. Some of them have widgets, so there are things that could be fixed or implemented even that are missing. So with that in mind, now that I open Blender, I'm going to show you some of the new things that are open, and maybe we can see some other things, because if we see what the developers have been doing, it's mainly what will happen. Bastian is working on the bug tracker, because remember that you can submit crash reports. You can see you can submit if Blender is closing 2.8 alpha, it's getting like closing when you press certain buttons, then you can report that, especially if you can reproduce it, because those are the things that want to get fixed first. Then there is work on the smoke display for the Workbench engine. So you can, in the Workbench, the engine that you use for tweaking, for working, for sculpting, for modeling, well, it would also support volumetrics. So that's being implemented. Also, Clément is working on the per object visibility settings. So there are these properties here. For example, the wireframe is not there yet. Draw all edges, bounds, and all of that. He's implementing it right now. So it's gonna come up very soon. And we should go through some of the changes. I already made a video. I don't know if you've seen it. Probably you have. It's in the Blender developers channels. It's on YouTube / Blender developers. It's about the UI, the workspaces, and the viewport update. So if you've seen it, probably this is not the most interesting part of the video for you, but I'll go through them very quickly. An addition that was added yesterday, was an update on this widget, the navigation widget. I'm gonna make the window slightly bigger, the interface, so you can see it. So here, this little guy here, it's part of the redesign. In Blender, a week ago, it used to have like a little cube with some arrows that were a bit too big. This is another iteration on that concept. Basically, the improvements over that is that you can see now the positive axis in the negative axis, so you know which direction you are. That's an improvement that it didn't have before. You didn't know which direction were you in. I think the little balls, I'm not sure if they should be colored or not. They're fun, but they're a bit too bright here, and you can barely see the Y, the axis. Maybe the Y color could be darker, or the little ball could be just darker, right? Because you don't really need to, you need to see the directions, but maybe, I don't know, we still have to make tweaks in that. But it's I think it's a great improvement. This is the interactive manipulator, because right now in Blender 2.8 Alpha, you can choose which kind of viewport axis you want to show. So you can switch between the simple axis, which is the one that we had in Blender 2.7. It's not interactive, but it's a visual help. For example, if you want to know where you are in the world here. And the interactive one is this one that you can actually click around, and is very helpful, maybe for beginners. And also if you're with a tablet, you just can quickly click and go to like which side. So you click on it and you go front, back, top, and bottom. That way you can quickly see. There's still work to be done there, but at least, especially these icons, we need to fix these icons. We should just use the icons that we already have, like the camera icon. Perspective could be the one from the viewport, and then move, and the zoom icon. This is the zoom, so maybe we could use that. I don't think we should try to invent new icons, because then when they get updated, they're gonna get updated everywhere. So what also is new? The popovers are new. The popovers got a little bit of a redesign. Now you can actually change the shadow intensity and the direction from here. So you've probably seen that in the video that I made over at the developers channel, which you can just change the direction from here, which is a huge improvement, because before you had to go and do it in the scene settings, which makes sense because these properties get saved in the scene. So if you have two viewports and you change the direction, shadow, and you change the direction of the shadow, it will change both. So we are mixing a setting that is a viewport only with one that is scene. So it's that was the reasoning why it's here. Like when we put things in the UI, usually they have a reason. Usually, if they come from 2.7, maybe they don't have a lot of a reason, but there are reasoning behind why putting it in the scene setting. Well, because it gets saved per scene. So that's the whole point, to have it there. I'll continue right now. I'm just gonna cheer with you guys. It's 9:20. I'm allowed. Cheers to France for winning the World Cup. It's over. Finally, it's over. All right, let's continue. The popover panel also got a few fixes. There is a few alignments that I would like to do here on the top. The user pref button to tweak the matcaps, to install new matcaps, and the one for flipping the matcaps is right aligned now. I made this based on feedback from awesome people at the DevTalk forums. So if you're at the DevTalk forums, go to user feedback called Quest, and then you can see like interface design. There's a very nice discussion here going on with the interface. Well, okay, this is old, but if you look the more recent changes, I was actually discussing this and I was doing it while I was talking with the people here. So here I was just posting. I just want to show it because it's fun, like how the process goes. So get involved, like share your thoughts, always with respect. Remember, there are reasons to get mad at a few things, but there's also reasons to love it and try to solve it together. For example, there was a few mockups that were just impossible to do because there's some things you just can't do. The current system doesn't allow you to do it. So, for example, there are a few things. There's a nice option here, like having the buttons floating on the screen, but that is not possible right now with the current system. Then there was another thing that I thought it was impossible, but thanks to like this, for example, instead of having all the row for all four options here, it was proposed by John Doe. It was proposed to have it in four, split in four. So yeah, maybe we should try. It's a nice experiment, but this was done in like a photo manipulation software. So when I tried to do it, the alignment didn't fit and the text got trimmed, and it's not cool to have the text trimmed. We should always try to display all the text on a full HD screen, of course. Then I tried to make it vertical. No, it didn't work. Then I said that it was impossible. And then we had awesome Brecht just showing up and saying, hey, hold my beer. Here is how you do it. So he posted the code how to achieve this with a little hack. So basically you just create two rows, and instead of calling one prop one enum that has everything, one property, just call the enum individual settings and just put one next to each other. So that was all nice and dandy until you change and reduce the number of options, and then you have 3. So you could gray out one of them, but it just wasn't working. So then we just continued chatting, and then I tried a few things here. I aligned the stuff. Then I tried to make it wider. Then I tried to remove, to add the background to some of the buttons, and the back and forth. So this is very nice, a nice way to collaborate together, right? To make things happen together with back and forth, with respect, with passion. So, all right, what else has changed here? The overlays panel has completely changed. And one of the things that changed, that is a huge change, huge because it's a name basically that changed. So these little guys here now have a different name. In Blender 2.7, they were called manipulators, because in 2.7 there was only or maybe there were a few custom manipulators being built. Basically, this is a navigation manipulator, right? We try to use that concept. And then these guys here, they're gizmos. So now instead of being called manipulators, they're called gizmo. And this change has been done all over the place. So if you have an add-on, if you made an add-on that, or if you know of an add-on that was changing these settings, for example, you just need to update, and instead of manipulator, it's going to be called gizmo. Then with one click, you can change it. And all of these settings, I'm not going to go through all of them because I already mentioned it on the other video, and I did it in English, so why even bothering? But the whole point is that now you can press the little button here that it will toggle all the overlays, or you can also just disable all of them one by one, and this will toggle them. So before this change, before last week, there was no way to achieve the same, like if you press this button or disable all of it, it was different. There were a few things that you couldn't disable, and now you can. The things that were not possible to be disabled, and now they are, is origins. So now the origin is always, it used to be always there for the active object at least, and you could choose if you wanted to show all of them, which I don't know, why would you ever do that? It's just so much information, but it's useful, especially if your mesh is like, it's very thin or it didn't have volume. So it's useful, but now you can also just disable them all together. So that is a nice, very nice improvement. Then the wireframe option now got all merged in one slider, and these areas where you see the title here a bit weird, and this one that is a bit misaligned, they're misaligned because they're actual panels inside, and the popovers still don't understand about panels. They're a bit silly yet. So they need to learn, and they will learn. And once we have panels, there will be less room here. Now there is like a huge amount of space between them. It's going to be a bit more compact. You're going to be able to toggle them just like regular subpanels here, where you can just toggle them on and off, and they have like this nice little triangle here. So they will behave the same, and it will be more more compact. Another option that is there, I'm going to just show it quickly, is this to toggle to show in the viewport or not the objects per type, which is amazing. That way you can really disable all the meshes, all the cameras if you don't want to see them, grease pencil objects, and all kinds of stuff. So this will be pretty awesome. You know why the grease pencil option shows up there? Because plot twist, the build that I'm using here is not 2.8 alpha, it's 2.8 alpha plus grease freaking pencil. Yes, I'm using the grease pencil branch, which is, wait, before you go all crazy and stuff, it's not yet on 2.8. It is a branch what I'm using. I just compiled the branch as a surprise, and I have a shortcut to open Blender with, like, I have a link to basically open the latest Blender, the latest that I compiled. So that's why I opened the link. But that's how you see how cool and how great the Grease Pencil team is. Joshua Long, Antonio Vasquez, Matias Mendiola, and Daniel Martinez Lara. They are doing fantastic stuff, and they like you can see, it's already so stable, and you can do great things. I'm not gonna spoil the fun. I'm gonna make a dedicated video with it, but basically it's just amazing. Look, you can even preview the kind of brush before you even do it. You can change the materials because they are materials now. So they like, it's just amazing. So the so you see, and you change the color, and the color updates the thumbnail immediately. This is called a live icon. This is just freaking awesome. Like, not even brushes, not even regular brushes have that, and Grease Pencil has it. Just amazing. So I'm not gonna spoil the fun for you because we're gonna see it eventually, but the reason why it's taking so long is because it's being really well polished. The Grease Pencil, the old options of the Grease Pencil are now called annotations. So now you can still write notes just like you could do it in the past, and they're called annotations now. You can change the color, you can do all kinds of things, but they're just called annotations. And the Grease Pencil object is what you add with the Grease Pencil. And once it comes with a very nice workspace, custom workspace for 2D animation, it's just gonna be fantastic. So, spoiler, I'm not gonna spoil this anymore, but it's just so cool what the Grease Pencil guys are doing. It's just amazing. All right. And they merge 2.8 all the time. So if you compile your own Blender, which you should because it's really fun, not because, yeah, it's just fun, just do it. And once you learn to compile, you don't need to compile once, and then you just change branch to whatever the Google Summer of Code guys are doing. Compile, it compiles, you try it. You go back to Blender 2.8, you compile Blender 2.8. You want to play with Grease Pencil, switch Grease Pencil, check out the changes, compile. It's just, you learn it once, and you don't even have to learn it. You just follow the steps. It's like following a recipe. There are tutorials on YouTube on how to compile Blender. For Windows, at least I know, and for Linux. Linux, I think, is the simplest of all of them because you just need to like run a script to install the dependencies and then just follow the steps. Anyway, that's all I wanted to share for now with this. Regarding this, the call for workspaces is out. It's in devtalk.blender.org. I'm mixing the websites. The user feedback quest. There, here, the thread that is called Workspaces, I made a call for content. So you probably have seen this video in the Blender Developers channel. If not, go check it out because I explain how you can contribute and why are we getting new workspaces and why are they useful. Some people were suggesting don't add any workspace, let people imagine. But no, actually workspaces make a lot of sense. I know in Blender 2.7 nobody ever used these ones over here. Maybe every now and then, but they weren't so used at all. But now it makes more sense because in Blender 2.7 screens were just that. They were just an arrangement of your editors, and that is it. Blender 2.7 can 2.8 can actually have custom add-ons per workspace, which is amazing. And if the add-on is changing the shortcuts, for example, it would only change the shortcuts for that one workspace. So it means that maybe we could even, what would be awesome, for example, to have like an animation nodes workspace that only has the animation nodes there, or one that has a 3D printing toolbox add-on only there. Like, who knows? All kinds of stuff. So it's really a big improvement, I think. So yes, there are reasons to have workspaces. The other point that I wanted to show, I think I'm done with all the stuff here in the viewport. There are a few things. There is light-proof caches that I didn't make a video yet, and I'm gonna make a video soon. And I think I don't have the visualization file here. And also, I shouldn't try it in the Grease Pencil branch, but maybe Blender 2.8, ArchViz. Ah, yeah, this one here. I need to make a video about the light prof caches, but basically you can now bake them. You can bake a light prof. So look at this beautiful thing. Let's flip it to the top. This file, by the way, is available in blender.org/ or you can just go to blender.org, and then I should add a link to 2.8 in the front page. Go to 2.8, and if you haven't been here in a while, you recognize this guy in the background is a Tree Creature by Daniel Beistet, and he is awesome enough to have shared not only this video, but also the blend file is available for download there. I think I didn't mention it in Blender today, but here you are. Go download it. It's 400 megs-ish, and yeah, play with it. It's amazing. So thank you, Daniel Beistet, for such an awesome contribution. That is it for now. then the call for matcaps is still going. Please vote. Go here, call for content matcaps. I tweeted today about it, but go and vote. What is voting is, I actually like this one. I downloaded it. I'm trying it here right now. So I will start answering the questions right now, but basically if you vote for your favorite matcaps, it's easier for me to spot them. I'm gonna go through all 162 posts, of course. I'm gonna go through all of them, but it's much easier to find the ones that people actually want. And how many do we actually want to ship Blender with? So Blender now supports, like this is a JPEG image, but I will ask people to upload EXR files. So that way you can actually, in the future, they are, full depth, they are from full color, and they can be future-proof. So, for example, this contributor is a brown clay. It's similar, it's uploaded by SSH4. So he shared this file, this EXR, and in Blender, trying a new matcap is just as simple as going to, for example, here, choosing the matcap, and then you can just choose, instead of selecting one from your list, if you don't see anything, don't worry. It's because Blender is currently not shipping with all of them. I have this because I have them from Legacy. But at the end, Blender will ship with the new matcaps. So if you don't see anything, it's because we haven't chosen the ones that go there. We're still opening for people to vote, and closer to the beta, we're gonna choose them. So in the user preferences, show light user preferences, you can click here, and then where it says matcaps, it says no custom matcaps. So let's add a new one. Here you have the button in the header of the user pref, and you installed, and it's probably, so if you do EXR in the download folder, EXR, I don't have EXR's files. Yes, I need to go downloads folder, EXR, here, brown clay. So you should select it from there. You don't even have to restart Blender at all. You don't need to even do anything, and it shows up here. So now I have my very nice monkey head here. Let's make it smooth. And I have this nice matcap. So you can test them really easily, the EXR. You don't have to convert anything directly. It's so awesome. I'm really interested about okay, this one is really sci-fi, but it's very interesting. But especially there are a few that have like lines on them, which are fantastic for testing, like this, for example. They look weird, but actually they are used to see little imperfections in your geometry. So if the lines are perfectly aligned, then it means that the mesh is good. So yes, awesome. And please follow the instructions where I say which model to use, so we can all compare with the same model. That said, I will now go to the questions. Yes, let's go to the questions. As always, I will scroll all the way up until YouTube lets me. Okay, here. And then I try to go this is how it works. I tried to go where at the beginning of the show. So just to be fair. All right, so first question, when can we expect the edit cage for the beta? It's gonna be for the beta, for August. What he means is that now, when you enter edit mode, you can't see this is the mesh without subsurf, and this is with subsurf. So soon, especially once we get the OpenSAP div. Can you make it so we can display the dots on face selection? Yes, that is coming. It's an overlay. So what he means, or she means, is that in edit mode, now if you're in face select mode, it looks exactly the same. You don't see a difference between edge and face select. And I don't like that. I think it should be different, right? So in Blender 2.7, the way you did it, it will look different, is by having the dots inside of the faces. And that's coming back as a overlay, so you can disable it from here if you don't like it. Let's continue. Wow, I just read no sound. I was freaking out again. All right, let's see. Will adaptive subdivision work in Eevee? I'm not sure. I need to ask Clément about that. For UVs, can we get an option for the random colors overlay to be per UV island? Also, can we please get a checker pattern overlay so we don't have to get... Oh, yeah, that's an idea, actually. That... who was working on it? Jeroen Bakker, the developer that was working on the workbench. We already talked about it, and we think it would be a very nice addition if the checker pattern was an overlay instead of having to make one. It can be a bit slow because you will have to generate a new image basically for each. So it can be heavy, but maybe there are ways to fix that. Maybe only the active object, maybe only smaller size textures. So yeah, there are ways to fix it. Where can we download the working OBJ import-export add-on for Blender 2.8? It should be included in Blender. If you go to the user prefs, add-on, OBJ. So we are import-export wavefront. Oh, I don't. I will check because the live fixed it, and it should be there. Can you make the wireframe back to be transparent? What do you mean? It is transparent. Like, oh, you mean to be the same as the like empty X-ray and like this. Basically, it's the X-ray 0, the same option. You can, you can add this to the favorites menu, so you can toggle it from there, so you can toggle in and out. But the whole thing with the wireframes is that we want to have some sort of presets. So a preset that will basically, you can choose which settings you want, and then you save a preset, and then what you just toggle is a preset. So that way everybody's happy. If someone wants a preset with random and one with X-ray like this, then you'll have it. When are the Maya and Max navigation keys coming to 2.8? That's something that I still have to do. Is a call for content, like I did with the matcaps and the workspaces, but for people who want to update the 3D Max and Maya keymaps, because they will be broken basically, and they have to be updated. But that should be after the beta and before the release candidate, because that's when the API is going to change, the Blend Python API. So for example, if there was a shortcut for activating the manipulator, now it's called Gizmo. So the keymap will fail, will be outdated. So that's the kind of things that Blender keeps changing. So it's better to wait closer to the release, so that way the API doesn't change that much. When will NURV surfaces be back? Were they ever gone? Apparently, yes. You can even close Blender with that. Hey, developers, you're watching this. NURV's crash Blender. And text too. I think I tried yesterday. Add a text. Yes, that's a nice crash. If you never crashed Blender before, if you never reported a bug before, this is the chance, because crashes are supported, like are allowed to be in the bug tracker now. Is local mode coming back? Yes, it will come back. But for the time being, what you can use is a similar thing, which is Shift H, which will hide everything except whatever you have selected. And then you can Alt H to go back. But the local mode will do that without actually changing your visibility. Your sound is a little out of sync. That's a pity. Why? I have it to 200 milliseconds. Maybe I can make it less. Okay, now I'm changing it. Let's hope. I will see it live tomorrow, but basically I changed the offset. The 3D connection devices do not work in 2.8. No, that is very, it hasn't been worked on. Any kind of input devices have not been worked on yet. So it's been missing. Do you know what changes have been made to Blender 2.79.5? Oh, like master, you mean? Yes, I mean, plenty of the changes in 2.8 have been merged back to master. Some of them, of course, not, like the removal of the game engine or the Blender internal or Eevee. Those things can't be brought back to 2.7 just like that. For example, 2.79.5, whatever, is using a very old OpenGL version, so it doesn't support all the fancy OpenGL stuff that we have now. But some things have been brought back, especially like cycles things. They are there. So if you go to Blender, builder.blender.org, and you download the official build, it's going to download the latest 2.7 compatible version of Blender. It's, of course, it's going to be unstable because it's still under development. 2.79 is over. It's out there. It's public. And whatever, like what it says official here is actually the development that happened after 2.79 and before not even before, like 2.8 branched out, but the development continues to happen. So for example, if, I don't know, when UDIM support gets added to Blender, it will probably also go to master, I bet. Or like the IES lights, for example, that is also there. It's in on the official branch. So you can use 2.7-ish Blender with that. Or also you can use the awesome system CPU. Well, I didn't compile with the CUDA here, but you can choose the CPU plus GPU with 2.7, which is awesome because it's not in part of the official 2.79, but it's going to be unstable, remember. It's under development. Stockost says, are there going to be updates to performance when editing high dense meshes? Yes, well, I mean, the new OpenGL, it will support higher or more denser meshes because it supports newer, like basically your new graphics card work a lot better. So let's continue. You need to work in the 2.7 key. They don't work in the timeline S and E. Can you add all the keys from 279 to the 2.7 keys in Blender 2.8? Well, they should work. Like if you, in the splash screen, choose 2.7, it should work. No, the S and the E, no, they don't work because the S and the E, they're used for scaling the keyframes. So since now the timeline is using the same editor as the dope sheet and basically the dope sheet, the action editor, there are some clashes there, but there are shortcuts, if I'm not wrong, about setting up those. It's like shift. We were trying a few things because I and O could be for input and output, like on video editors, but then you will have to, I think it was shift I, we have to decide yet which ones. But please leave feedback in the developer in Blender 2.8 user feedback. If you're not sure, if there is anything that changed during the code quest that you have feedback about, please make a thread here. You can log in with your Blender ID. You don't need to make a new account. You can just use the Blender ID that we all know and love, and you can post it in there. Any news when input fields in group nodes will work in Eevee? No, but for the beta they should work. Will the crash when adding a curve be fixed? Yeah, every crash will be fixed. What kind of question, Mr. GMFX? Every crash will be fixed. That's one thing that Blender thrives for, is to be stable. How to make a clay rendering with a new workbench? With a matcap, just use a matcap. Oh, what do you mean? Yeah, just add a matcap and then render the sequence. Hi from Germany. Hi Germany. Love your stream format. How does compositing look like with the new collections? How do you specify what gets rendered, what gets masked on, and so on? So the mask is not implemented yet. It's gonna be implemented. Oh, by the way, did you see this? Cluck, cluck, cluck. You can now hold Control when changing and you wanna snap the size of the editors. So it's very nice. Tuck, 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 control, and it will snap. Anyway, the way they work now is that instead of being view layers, render layers are view layers. So you make them from here, from the top. You just make as many as you want. And here you select which collections are going to be part of it. There will be documentation, so I'm going to make videos about it. I'm planning on renewing the Blender fundamentals to do something similar to it for Blender 2.9. But basically you just choose which collections you don't want in that view layer, so which is like a render layer. And then the render layers are going to be available in the why does the shortcut doesn't work here? Shift F3, compositing, and then you can choose the render layers from here, all the view layers. It's the same workflow. But yes, the you can exclude only right now, but you can't mask them. There is a discussion about that going on the development talk, I think, but it's not implemented yet, basically. But it will be. Everything that it was possible in 2.7 should be possible in 2.9. For UVs, can we get an option for the random colors? Oh yeah, you already answered that. Can we? Yes. The random colors to be per UV island. That's a very nice idea. Could be cool to have it in the UV. Yes, that's a nice idea. We need to bounce it. You can probably put it in blend in the right-click select.com. A lot of really great ideas are coming up from here. The developers check this, so yes. Let's continue. I have some major problems with the Workbench viewport and cycles instantly crashes. Report it. Is it a known problem or is not? Then where do I report it? Well, in the bug tracker within Blender, you can go to help report a bug, and it will take you to the developer.blender.org website where you can log in and report a crash. Only crashes for the time being, not like where is my Blender internal, because it will be closed and it's wasting time for the developers. John Seed says, wanted wire selected and wire all in overlay popover. Like an option to hide origins is great. Wire all and overlay wire selected. Well, actually with the new, well, not new because it's not there implemented yet, but basically the per object visibility is going to do that. When you enable wireframe, it's going to have the wireframe for this object. Maybe there could be an add-on that enables it for selected objects, but I don't think, I don't know, would you use it? Leave a comment and let's see how many likes it has. Because we were actually discussing this today with Clema. Now we need a pie menu editor, but that's a paid add-on, right? Is it possible to integrate fast point-to-point snapping method? I'm not familiar with it, but point-to-point, what is it? Isn't it vertex to vertex, like snapping? And like that? What am I missing? Sorry if it's very common in another software and I'm not familiar with it. Hi Pablo, I love your show. Thank you. Heard more and more studios interested about switching to Blender. Yes. At Annecy was like every 3 people, there was one that hey, I have a studio, I want to switch to Blender. Hey, I have a studio, I want to switch. Like everybody, really. Somebody even like, I have 3 studios and I want to switch to Blender. So yes, the teaching that will happen at the Blender Animation Studio here in Amsterdam is going to be very popular, especially because you can get classes on things that are not very common, and you can find tutorials on YouTube about like how to make a movie, right? Because it takes a lot of work to make a movie. So that kind of things I think will be very popular. I'm totally against the control tab for pie menu. Can you demonstrate to get the earlier daily build tab behavior back? Yes, if you want the old behavior back, you just need to go to the user preferences, and in the input, you just change it. So basically in the 3D view global, I think, here we should have the tab and control tab. I can just search for it basically. So let's search for tab and search for key binding. So it's here, 3D view. So there is one that it should be global. It's, what a terrible key map editor we have. I agree, we need a new one. All right, so you have a shift tab for changing, and you can just make it a just tab basically, and instead of no, sorry, shift tab is control tab here. Set object mode. So is object set? No. This one is the object mode pi or toggle. So I'm gonna just get control tab to be, you can make it be anything. So it could be like object mode set, and then you just make it be weight paint, which is the same behavior that we used to have before. And then the other one, you can just make it copy the one that it was there, object mode or pi or toggle, and then make it press. That should be it, tab. So you click, there you go. So tab changes to the pi, and then control tab changes to, I need to make it toggle, there you go. Changes to weight paint, like it was before. And then tab will switch to here, tab up side. Anyway, what else? Was my comment from UI header consistency from 3D viewport helpful, or somebody told you to change what? My comment from a revision number, UI header consistency for 3D viewport helpful, or somebody else told you to change overlay shading. I don't get it. What is this? This is a revision, right? It's in developer and diffusion, I guess. And it must be one of the commits. So instead of here, wow, I haven't read that actually, this. No, but it's something I wanted to change for a while, but thank you actually. I haven't seen it, you see, because I'm not a subscriber. I made this. The thing is that commenting on commits is probably not very simple. Probably was somewhere here on my stuff, but it's hard to follow that track. The best way to get heard is on Dev Talk forum, because this is like a, yeah, it's more like an actual forum. Sorry if I missed that, but actually it was something that we wanted to change for a while now, so it was just waiting for more changes to happen. So instead of just changing it one day and that's it, we wanted to make the change of the position, and also the introducing this toggle up here and remaking the popovers. So that was the idea, was to make all these changes at once. The header on one side. If you see the commit logs, they're one after the other. So the idea when making changes is that everything happens at once, so in different commits, so you can go back, but everything, all the changes at once, so you can test a new workflow. Because if you make one change per day, you will have in 5 days, 5 commits, 5 different workflows. If you change everything that you were thinking about in one day, then you have the workflow from yesterday and today. So you compare these two, and then you remove the things that are not maybe very handy. What happened to the animated nodes? They're there. It's an add-on, so it's still there. I bet it will be working with 2.8, unless it gets replaced with the new everything nodes. On the Mac version of 2.8, I can do literally nothing without a crash. Unfortunately, there are not so many Blender developers using a Mac, unfortunately. So that's why if you find crashes are on every platform. You can see, if you want to see Blender crash, just, and there is a crash. So there are crashes on every platform. Maybe if there is a Mac, maybe if you have a Mac, there are more chances because they're harder to spot, because there's not so many developers working on it. But that said, Blender is and will always be multi-platform. So if there are crashes with with a Mac, report it. If you know how to reproduce it, report it. Go to help, report the bug, check that it's not there yet, like if nobody has posted it already, and then post it. The more people reporting crashes, the more likely that we get a Blender stable. So DDB, I'm concerned with external render compatibility with Eevee. What do you mean? We have output nodes with option now. Will it propose external engines? Yes. When you render, when a new external engine registers itself, it's going to show up here. So you can just have your own setup. A lot of people are posting 2-screen workspaces in Dev Talk. Yeah, I forgot to mention, don't. Let's, of course, 2 screens workspaces, it's a thing, but provide both, like the screenshot with 1 and with 2, because the default Blender will not ship with dual screen workspaces by default, because it would mean that you change the workspace and it will open a new window. It shouldn't, because even though it's very common to have dual screens, it's also common to have a 720p screen, like a little laptop 13 inches, and it shouldn't get on the way, unless the workspace is called dual screen setup. But it's not gonna be by default in Blender. Maybe it can show up in the list once you click in the plus, but shouldn't show up by default. Blender requirements are just a full screen, full HD screen, and you can also use it on a smaller screen. Of course, Blender is super flexible, but the idea is that, yeah, 2 screen setups are welcome, but please also post a version with a one screen. Santa Park, this said, I'm speaking Spanish already. What do you think about rest shift for Blender? Good news, bad news? Is great news. The more, the better. Because if there's a studio that is like, has, I don't know, 50 people working with rest shift, and they want to change to Blender, they should have the chance, right? They should be able to change to Blender and still keep working on their favorite engine. Maybe over time they will find out that actually Cycles was more appropriate, or is less trouble because you get, the updates faster, but the more the better, right? That's good news. Why the UI is still so cluttered? For example, there's viewport options all over the place. You should have a single common page for all the viewport. What do you mean? We have viewport options only in the viewport, plus every specific for a type. So if a material, for example, material has viewport options because it's per material. Object has viewport options because it's per object. And like that everywhere, all over the place. So it makes sense that this is... Some things make sense. They look like they don't, but they make sense. Any news about the asset browser? Unfortunately, no news. The idea for the beta was to implement a simple version of the asset manager. So for example, browsing materials, and then make it better, improve on it. But no news for the time being. The developer Bastian is working on bug fixes at the moment and trying to get all the crashes over. But we should push for the asset manager. I am so waiting for the asset manager. So if you have there's no thread actually about the asset manager here, but it's in dev talk. Here is the Blender asset manager. Bam, no. Okay, let's continue with the questions while this searches. So there is a branch. Actually, many of those things are already there. Maybe the branch could be merged. Yeah, that will be a first good step. When I use wireframe in Blender 2.8, I can select all vertices with box select like before. How can I? Oh, why? Sounds like a bug. So say I have this, and I can't. Seems to work with the option, and then yeah, seems to work. Strange. It's possible to scale the widgets. This widget, you mean? Not for the time being, but actually there are settings for the simple axis and the same for brightness. So maybe we should just make it work, right? With that. That would be a good, we already have the options. Maybe it's a lot more work because it's actually interactive and it has to scale everything, but it would be a nice idea, especially to make it less bright, because right now it's like a piece of candy rotating there and it's just taking too much attention. Cool, the new favorite menu is specific to what we are selecting, sort of like custom context menu. Oh, that would be pretty cool actually. And it shouldn't be too hard to do. The other day, Campbell was teasing me. He made the custom, the favorite menu. He was teasing me that implementing some of the things that I was asking him, like, oh, we should make an editor. Yeah, we should. And then we should make it also per like multiple. So one with Q and one with F4 or 5. And then like every F should have its own custom quick menu. And some of them should be Pi. And you should have an option to turn on Pi or disable the Pi menu. And he was like, yeah, you should code. I was like, what do you mean? He said, no, like really, those things are like the code for it it's fairly simple. So even like a beginner developer could try and give it a try. So he was actually telling me that would be a very nice way to start learning Blender. Another thing that he said, it would be nice to start learning Blender. And this I will start wrapping up today's episode. But for example, you can click on a surface and then the 3D cursor will snap to it, will position with the rotation, the new 3D cursor in 2.8. And he said that when using the snap option, Blender could have an option to snap to cursor rotation, for example. And he said, dude, that is super easy. Just do it then, and you will learn how to code in Blender, because it's basically just copying the rotation. And yeah, it's a very nice, easy way to get started with Blender. And remember that now there is a place where you can, if you want to learn Blender development, there is a place now, a freaking forum dedicated, like with developers, actual developers, checking out and answering questions for Blender development. So if you want to ask like some weird thing, like some very specific hardcore coding thing, then you're gonna get answers by the big dudes. And with that, I will fudge. It's already late. Let's answer 5 more questions. I noticed the flip recalculate normal functions are gone from the Control F menu. It's Shift N, but it should be in the face menu because it's a face normal, right? So it should be there. Can we use the control? I can't check right now if it's here or not. Face data, no, it's not here. But to recalculate the normals is Shift N. It used to be Control N, but now Control N is restart reload the startup file, which used to be Control N, but in object mode. So now it's a bit more global. But it should be there. Please, if it's not, report it or mention it in here in the feedback. So tomorrow or any of these days, we can just go check it and then maybe add it to the menu. It's very easy to add things to menus. It's super simple. That was 1. Okay, 4 more. Can we use Control and drag the edge or split or join windows? The corner now is a bit hard to click on. Yes, you can, like Control to move windows, you mean? Yeah, like it's actually the same area. It hasn't changed, the corner. I was thinking of making it bigger. I actually made it bigger on my own Blender, like on my local branch. And the problem was that the bigger it gets, it's over this button. So sometimes I made it a bit too big, and when you click on this, I would accidentally click on the side. So you see now this is the action zone exactly at the end of the button. Maybe we can make it like 0.1, 0.2 bigger without actually messing up in the interaction with these menus, but we have to test it. Maybe that's something that can be done. What I think it should be bigger is this area. These are like 3 pixels. They should be like at least twice as much. Okay, 3 more. Any chance that we'll get the matcap node and a workbench output node? I don't know. That's a good idea. But the workbench actually is gonna be preview engine, like a OpenGL render. Here, the OpenGL render is gonna be renamed to something more common, like viewport render, or maybe preview render, because the sequencer can also render an OpenGL render, which is weird because you can use image sequences that are not OpenGL anyway. And it should be called maybe preview render or so. Because many things are changing names. Did you guys notice that lamps are gone in Blender? Now they're called lights. Makes so much sense. Because it was possible to add a sun lamp. And the sun is not a lamp, it's a light. Anyway, light source. 3 more. Here's hoping to see a muscle rigging system in Blender 2.0. Yes, with nodes. That would be awesome. And the last one, box select or complex meshes is in edit mode. It's pretty much broken for me. Or it will be fixed. When will the mask layer come back to the render layers? I have to ask Brecht about it, but that functionality has to come back, of course. It has to. With that, I'm afraid that I'm only answering questions from an hour ago. Sorry, there are so many. Next time I can put the slow mode like longer, because that way I can answer more questions. Or maybe I should start from the bottom or something, because it's so many questions that I can't even answer. Like what? Is there a way to make a startup file list when you open Blender? What you can choose what type of work you want to do. Yeah, with application templates file. It's not here. It's not here. Where are the application templates? Anyway, they probably need to be enabled. But in Blender 2.7, you have application templates, which basically are, you can configure a whole new Blender to do completely different things. Change the UI, change everything. You need to know how to code, because it takes editing, but it's not too complicated. I will leave you guys, because in less than an hour I have to start Blender Hoy, which is Blender Today in Spanish. Because for some reason at some point I decided, like, hey, why not make 2 live streams instead of 1 live stream per day? And then I am exhausted the next day. And the cool thing is that I don't finish my beer. I drink 1 in 2 hours, and I'm even standing now. So I stay up, I do some exercise. I don't have to sit down for so long. Anyway, it's been a fantastic evening. Thank you for staying until the end. I don't know how many are we, and tell me how many are we, because I can't see. And we will see each other in the next episode, which is gonna be next week Monday, if everything is okay. And I will let you know in case. But no, I think it's fine. What is Monday next? It's 23. Yeah, it's gonna be fine. I will go with style. Remember the thing that we do every week, and that I say that it's too loud, but it's not very too loud. Or people say 540 people. That's insane. What? It's fantastic. Anyway, okay. Ciao. I will see you again next week. Same channel, same time, same everything. Watch your headphones if you're wearing any, and yes. Au revoir. Arrivederci. Ciao. Bye bye.